Gemini Advanced, the chatbot used by Google as a competitor to ChatGPT or Claude, kind of started out as a bit of a joke, but since then it's actually grown to be one of the most significant players out there, especially with the LLMs. And it even has a few advantages that most people don't know about. So in this video, I'm going to measure out what the pros and the cons are and give you my honest opinion on whether Gemini is the best chatbot out there today or whether you're better off with something else. Now, in case you don't know who I am, my name is Jason. I'm an author. I wrote 14 books the traditional way before encountering AI. I also worked for a while, 3 years at Kindlepreneur before becoming a full-time content creator. And this channel is all about creative writing using AI as a guide, not sacrificing your own personal ethics or creativity. So let's start by doing just a brief overview of the Gemini chatbot. Now, it's very similar to many other chatbots in most respects. You have your chat window down here. Most of the others have it kind of in the center, which is interesting, but this one has it down here. And you have a couple of features right off the bat. First of all, you can dictate into it using a microphone, which is something you can do in ChatGPT, but not in Claude. And then you can just type in your thing here. You have access to a number of different models, actually just two major models, the 2.5 Flash, 2.5 Pro, both of which are very good. Now, I mentioned that some of the models from Gemini were a little bit of a joke at the beginning. The 2.5 Pro and Flash models are actually very excellent. I particularly find that 2.5 Flash is probably my favorite cheap model for use in certain situations where I'm not looking for like super awesome pros or anything. I just need it to perform certain tasks reliably and do so with as little cost as possible. 2.5 Flash is my go-to at the moment for that. 2.5 Pro is also really good. It's sometimes good for writing. I found that for creative writing, like for books, it's not quite as good when compared to the Claude models, but I have found that in certain use cases, it is actually pretty good. For instance, I created an automation that makes a YouTube script, and I found when I was testing the actual generation of the script itself, and not all the steps in it, but just the actual first draft of that script, I found 2.5 Pro was doing really, really well for that compared to Claude. I think it made a much better video, which makes sense because Google owns Gemini and they own YouTube, so they probably have been very carefully trained on all of that YouTube data. Interestingly enough, there is also this personalization feature. This is a relatively new one because, as you can see, it says preview here. If you click on this, it will know things about you, not just because of what you've been talking to the AI about or any integrations and stuff that it has, but because of your search history. Okay, most of us have grown up using Google, even though I nowadays use Perplexity as a search engine more than I use Google. I know that for the vast majority of people out there, Google is still the default search engine. And so because of that, it will know your search history and can potentially give you more personalized results. We can talk about the ethics of that, or not even the ethics, but just like the privacy issues there. And if we actually go and look at so I asked it a question, what do you know about me? And it said, based on your search history, I can see you have a wide range of interests. Here's a summary of some things you've been exploring. And then it gave me a spot on description of who I am and the things that I am interested in. I have nothing to hide, so I'm making all of this public. You can see this is 100% accurate. Writing and publishing, AI and technology, storytelling and entertainment, health and wellness, travel and locations. Like it even said, you've shown interest in travel, researching locations like London, Tallinn, Bath, Cornwall, and more recently New Zealand. You've looked into things to do, places to stay, and even immigration to New Zealand. All true. Productivity and business, and then learning and knowledge. You enjoy learning new things, evident from your searches on a variety of topics, from mythology and history to technology and writing skills. Yep. That is all absolutely true. So it does know a lot about you, which is a little bit scary. Okay, I'm okay with a technology knowing a lot about me, as long as I know that the company involved is not going to be trying to use that information to sell me stuff, which unfortunately, that's exactly how it works. Facebook, that's how they've made their entire fortune. Same with Google. And so knowing things about us is how they sell us stuff. And the more they know about us, the better they can sell us stuff. And so unfortunately, I'm a little conflicted on this one. But regardless, let's go back to the chatbot. So here on the left side, you can also say explore gems. These are similar to GPTs in ChatGPT. You could also have them similar as projects. I don't have very many. I had this data entry one that I was doing, but you can basically create a new gem and give it a specific system prompt, specific instructions, and it should be able to do those. And there are a variety of different use cases where you might need that. Pretty much all the chatbots have something like that. But also down here in the settings, some other things that we want to take a look at as well. Let's look first here at apps. And in the app section, you can see you've got a lot of integrations. This is one area where I think Gemini is particularly well suited to shine. Whether it shines or not is a question for debate, but you have access to GitHub, but also your entire Google workspace. Not only can you interact, like if I turn this on, it would be able to interact with my stuff directly, but also when I'm in my Gmail or my Google Drive or what have you, I can access Gemini through that to interact with my documents in whatever way I need. Some people find that annoying, but others, it can be super useful in certain cases, especially if you like writing in Google Docs or something like that. You can totally do that with Gemini. It also integrates with Google Flights, Google Hotels, and Google Maps. At some point, I think we're going to get to a point where we can say like, hey, I want to plan a road trip from A to B. What are some interesting stops between them? That's the sort of thing you can do here with AI. You can also book flights and hotels, or at least show flights and hotels. And it can do a lot of the searching for you that you would otherwise have to do manually to find those things. Now, I'm not sure I trust those features yet, just because, we're still early on, but I have no doubt that AI is going to get to the point where it can easily find you the best deal on a flight, for example, give you exactly what you need. Plus, you can integrate it with YouTube and YouTube Music to give you recommendations and stuff like that, which is fantastic. And then you also have integration with OpenStax, which I'm not really familiar with myself, but there it is. Now, I've heard chatter out there that not a whole lot of people use these or find them to be practical, but I will say that just Google being Google, having in the connection to all of Google's products, their suite of stuff, is going to be one of the biggest advantages that Gemini has. But so far, I haven't really found too many practical uses for it. Now, there are other advantages that Gemini has that are fantastic. For instance, when you sign up for Gemini, which is $20 a month, just like most of the other chatbots, you also get 2 terabytes of Google Drive storage. Now, Google Drive storage, 2 terabytes costs $10 on its own. So you're essentially getting that plus the chatbot for an additional $10. So it kind of saves you money. Now, I mean, it's obviously not saving you money. It's the same amount of money either way, but you get extra stuff with it, which I think is useful for some people. I personally don't use Gemini too often, but I did sign up for it and I am keeping it because of that 2 terabyte storage, because I feel like that's just going to be useful for me. But it's almost like I'm buying the 2 terabytes and then I get Gemini as a bonus rather than the other way around. In my case, but that's just me. One of the other benefits that you can get inside of Gemini, though, is you actually get some limited access to the video generation model, which most people, you'd have to pay quite a bit more to get heavier access to that. So if you want to create little videos for your social media and stuff like that, you can do that in here. All you do is just click on this video and then describe your video here. I did one right here that says, I asked for a nerdy novelist creating a YouTube video about how to use AI for authors. And I did not specify that this nerdy novelist was male, but okay, so here we go.
Today, I'm going to show you how AI can be an amazing tool for authors, helping you streamline your writing process.
And that's pretty crazy that it's got the dialogue and everything. Like VO3 is definitely I would say it's pretty clearly the best AI video generator on the market at this particular time as I'm recording this. That's of course going to change probably within, weeks of when I put this out. It is pretty cool that we have this with voice and everything seems to work closely together. Very cool. And you'll notice here, I've only generated this one video. It says you can generate 2 more videos today. So it only lets you generate 3 videos per day. That's on a paid plan, a $20 plan. So if you want to do a lot more video generation, you're going to have to go to a much more exclusive and expensive plan specifically for VO. Now, depending on which model I select, like when I was in personalization, none of this showed up. But if I go to like 2.5 Pro, I actually get some additional options here. So I can add files here. And of course, you can upload from Drive, from your computer or import code. You've got the VO3 video there, but you've also got deep research. Google was actually the first one to integrate a deep research feature into their large language models, and they are still one of the best ones for deep research. In fact, in terms of the really heavy hitters, I think it's one of the best ones. Plus, you can use Canvas to create different specific docs or apps, which can be useful if you're looking to work on a specific project inside of Gemini. I should also add that the Gemini models, even though these change frequently and we're going to see more and more improvements over time, the Gemini models also have a huge context window. So you can actually put like entire books, potentially even an entire series of books into Gemini and have it understand it. Whether that's a good use of a chatbot like this or not is to be debated, but you can do it. Now, what are some of the cons of Gemini? So for these, like, I don't see anything off the bat that really troubles me. In fact, it even has a few features like the video generation that I don't see anywhere else that are pretty cool. But there have been a couple of reports of just accuracy issues with the Gemini models. I'm sure, again, that's something that's going to be resolved eventually. Certainly when it was first introduced, there were big problems there, with the AI instructing people to put glue to keep the cheese on your pizza and stuff like that. One thing I did notice is that there is no voice model. You can use a microphone to dictate your question, but there is no voice mode that I am aware of inside of Gemini. That's another thing that will probably come soon enough, but it's not available yet. And like I mentioned, some of the integrations, although prevalent and certainly seamless when it comes to Google's own products, I haven't seen many people actually show instances of why and when that's useful. I haven't seen many people actually using them practically or talking about it. In fact, a lot of people just say that they're kind of unnecessary. That's just what I've heard. Don't quote me on that. I certainly don't use them for myself. I don't find that kind of a need, something that I need AI to help me with. I do an inbox zero every day, and it's usually pretty easy to do. And I also have never used AI to write an email in the past, which is funny coming from me, but I mean, I just write my own emails. They're not hard to do. They're not supposed to be long, right? So I just do that. So those are the major cons. There is, however, another option. If you don't want to pay the $20, you don't want the 2 terabytes of storage, or you're okay with just paying $10 for the 2 terabytes of storage, if you even want storage at all through Google Drive. I do, because I run a business and I need at least 2 terabytes to run, footage for this channel and stuff like that through to editors and all of that. But there are other options to access the Gemini models and other features in Gemini, and sometimes they're actually free. And the way to do that is to actually go to Google's AI Studio. And this is very similar to ChatGPT's platform, as well as Anthropic's console, which is basically an AI API access port. I actually think, in terms of design of the studio, it's actually one of the better designed APIs. You can see the chatbot looks very similar to just using the regular Gemini app. Plus, on the right here, you get access to more models than you're usually able to get access to. Your access from the 2.5 models, the 2.0 models, the Gemma models, which are not available inside of Gemini, as well as some others. You also have more flexibility in being able to adjust the temperature and the token count. You can also toggle on and off the thinking mode and set a thinking budget, which you can't do inside of the Gemini Advanced app. Plus, you have all these other tools, which I won't get into, but if you're a little bit more technical, you get a lot more flexibility with all of the stuff that you see here. You can even put output length, which is the maximum number of tokens in the response, which can be useful if you want to have like lots of response. You can also, on the left here, you can have the same dictation where you talk to it live. You can create different media here through image and other models there. You can even create apps in here using what the tools that Gemini offers. Now, in the past, a lot of this has actually been free. You can actually just interact within the AI Studio for free, because Google was trying to help it learn and figure out what people were doing. I don't know if that's still the case. There is a place where you can sort out billing. My guess is it's not anymore, and it's likely that you're going to have to pay at least a little bit. And the way that happens is like the other API consoles that you can find out there, is it's going to be on a pay-as-you-go basis. That's okay. you will usually spend less in the pay-as-you-go format than you would paying $20 a month for a chatbot. This is especially true if you don't use AI too frequently. The biggest disadvantage of a system like this using an API is that it's not as simple as just going with regular Gemini. If you just look between the two screens, you can see like this is a lot more minimalist, right? I can definitely say that there are some real advantages to having just simplicity. And I've gone on record multiple times that I recommend having a specialist tool that uses AI for a specific outcome, like writing or coding or whatever it is. So in the writing world, we look at tools like Novel Crafter or Pseudowrite or Raptorwrite as these wrapper tools that make the process and the workflow specific to writers. But I also recommend, in addition to that, having at least one chatbot. The reason for that is just because it's nice to have a catch-all for everything else. The chatbot is so simple that it can do everything. Sometimes have to jump through more hoops to do everything, which is why it's helpful to have a specialist tool. But sometimes you don't need the specialist tool isn't what you need. You need something else. And so having that chatbot available to you is useful, and having the simplicity that it affords is really useful. However, given that I can get most of everything I need out of Gemini just here in Google's AI Studio, which is aistudio.google.com, by the way, I don't particularly recommend that you spend $20 on Gemini Advanced unless you want to get the combination of that 2 terabytes of storage with the AI added on top of that. If you're really deep into the Google ecosystem, it might be useful for you. There's a mobile app and everything that could be useful for you. Unless that's you, I would probably go with a different option. The one that I tend to recommend most these days is actually Perplexity, which is a tool that's kind of geared for search. I use it now more than I use Google search because I find it to be more accurate and more helpful. I especially love using it for troubleshooting things. It has saved me so much time trying to troubleshoot little issues and things like that. And if you want to use it just as a basic chatbot, all you have to do is go to this sources thing. By default, it'll have web turned on here. If you want to just use it like as a writer, all you have to do is turn this off and then just ask it to write the thing that you've outlined. Additionally, you can pick from different models. Now, there's not a huge variety of models here, but it does have all of the heavy hitters, including Gemini 2.5 Pro. So if you really love 2.5 Pro as a model, you can actually access it inside of Perplexity. Plus, there are a lot of other features that Perplexity offers, and I have a whole nother review video that you can check out if you're more interested in that. But these days, because I recommend having a specialist tool and a chatbot, the chatbot I would most recommend would actually be Perplexity because of its versatility and its just general helpfulness. Rather than Gemini. Of course, if there are specific things that you want in Gemini, you can do that. Keep in mind that a lot of those things might be accessible through the API on a pay-as-you-go basis. So rather than spending $20 a month, just go and pay a few cents for whatever your needs are at the time in Gemini, and you'll probably save a lot of money that way. So I would personally, and will be doing this, even though I'm an influencer in this space and need to be connected to a lot of tools, I'm planning on basically only using Perplexity as my main paid chatbot and just undoing all of my subscriptions to all of the others because I can get what I need through their APIs on a case-by-case basis if I need them, which probably won't be very frequently. You can also use other tools like OpenRouter.ai to help with that as well if you need so. And that's just the way I do it. So if this was useful for you, my Story Hacker Gold membership is actually open right now. It won't be for much longer. So if you're interested in working more directly with me and getting help on your prompts or whatever questions you have for me, I go live inside of the group twice a week. Plus we have like a guy who specializes in AI art, a guy who specializes in storytelling and helping you actually make your AI text better, that sort of thing. We've got all kinds of classes in there that you should check out. So check out the link below and I will hopefully see you there.